welcome to Ride Alongside. Today is a landmark day. I get to introduce you to Trek's new 29 plus full suspension rig. So the Trek Full Stache is a 130 millimeter trail bike with 29 by 3.0 tires. Trek says it's the most unique full suspension bike they've ever made. Trek touts the benefits of 29 by 3-inch tires, which I've expressed numerous times over the past 3 or 4 years. They give you more confidence on technical climbs and descents because of the stability coming from a wider contact patch and more traction from lower pressure that's more dispersed on the ground. They're speccing the new Bontrager XR4 29 by 3.0 tires on the Trek Full Stache. These tires are already available on Trek's website for $75.99 currently, but they go for almost $100 normally, which is a little bit less than the Bontrager Chupacabra that we've had before. They have a claimed weight of 1,100 grams, which is a lot heavier than the Chupacabra, but they appear to be more trail-worthy with more aggressive tread for loose and rocky conditions. Now you might be asking yourself, is this just a full suspension Stache? What makes it so unique? What makes it different than any other models that are available that are full suspension? Well, two things make this bike very different. One, it's got 130 millimeters of travel. And two, it's got super short chain stays. Trek has really done their plus bike homework, and their engineering shows it. So number one, the Trek Full Stache has 130 millimeters of front and rear travel. They could have quickly designed a 100 millimeter travel bike and said the 29 plus is kind of like a 140 millimeter regular full suspension bike with these extra big tires, but they didn't. The Fuel EX 27.5 plus is 140 millimeters front, 130 millimeters rear. We tested that bike, and you can see our video by clicking in the upper right now. Trek's Remedy is 150 millimeters of travel, but it's only 27.5, not even 27.5 plus. Santa Cruz's Hightower is 135 millimeters of full suspension travel, but it's only available as a 29er, not 29 plus. But there is a full suspension 29 plus bike available, and that's from Salsa Cycles. It's the Deadwood Sus, but it only has 90 millimeters of travel with those 29 plus tires. And the reason for that is really that the 29 plus tire is pretty hard to engineer around without cutting corners somewhere. And I think Trek really did their homework over the last few years to try to get this bike just right. So number two, the Trek Full Stache has 427 millimeter chainstays. That is super short. For reference, the regular Stache has 420 millimeter chainstays, and it's a hardtail. So trying to fit in the suspension, the linkage, and all of that had to have been quite a feat for Trek, and they accomplished it. So for reference, the Trek Fuel EX has 433 millimeter chainstays with its 27.5 plus tires, as does the Trek Remedy. So these bikes have even less constraints on them, but they have longer chainstays. Santa Cruz's Hightower that I mentioned earlier with 135 millimeters of travel, it has 435 millimeter chainstays. So a little bit longer there as well. And then the Deadwood Sus from Salsa Cycles, remember it has 90 millimeters of travel? So you'd think that maybe they'd have a shorter chainstay. Well, it's a slightly different bike altogether, but it has 449 millimeter chainstays. So considerably longer. Now, what does a shorter chainstay give you? What's the purpose of that? Well, if you've heard me talk about my Trek Stache with its 420 millimeter long chainstays, you'll know that well, it wheelies really well right out of the gate, so that's pretty cool. But what does it really mean on the trail? It makes for a really great trail bike. For one, it's very agile, and for two, it's very nimble. It's a bike that you can throw around pretty easy, and with very large tires like that, very large circumference, that's pretty unique. So it's also got a shorter wheelbase as well, which makes getting through those corners and stuff a lot easier than it would be if it was real stretched out. So this is obviously a trail bike. This isn't a super stretched out, super stable bike for going straight over long, long miles. This is a trail bike, and Trek has designed it for people who are looking for more of a natural kind of trail, big rocks, just natural features that they can flow right over. So what kind of features are you going to find on this frame that are unique to Trek? Well, one is the straight down tube that they have with their knock blocks so that the fork's crown doesn't hit the down tube. You can see in our Fuel EX video that we put out that we showcased those two features, the straight shot down tube and the knock block, to show you what those look like. So those are incorporated on the Full Stache as well. What that gives you, having a straight down tube like that, is an incredibly stiff frame, which gives you a lot less flex. They've also included the active braking pivot. So those of you who are familiar with Trek's full suspension designs will know what the active braking pivot is. It allows the suspension to engage whether you're pedaling, you're coasting, or you are braking, which is somewhat unique as well. Then it's also got the reactive suspension. So the reactive suspension is a partnership with Trek and Fox to develop a better pedaling shock. And I can tell you what, I felt it right away on the Fuel EX 27.5 Plus. I noticed it immediately. And that with the active braking pivot, I think gives a really good design for climbing. So another thing that Trek has unique to its bikes is the Minnow Link. Now you may have seen this on the Trek Fuel EX 27.5 Plus that we tested. The Minnow Link is a little piece that you flip if you want a steeper head tube angle or a slacker head tube angle or a higher bottom bracket or a lower bottom bracket. So switch it one way, it's a steeper head tube angle and higher bottom bracket. You flip it the other way and it's a slacker head tube angle and lower bottom bracket. So at the steep setting, it is 67.4 degree head tube angle and 343 millimeter bottom bracket height. And at the slack setting, it is 67.0 degree head tube angle and 338 millimeter bottom bracket height. Now that lower bottom bracket height is 8 millimeters higher than the Fuel EX 27.5 Plus. I had a few issues when I was having pedal strikes on rock gardens when I was trying to pedal through those and the suspension was active. So I'm hoping that the Trek Full Stache is going to have less of those pedal strike issues. And I will be testing this bike in the future, so stay tuned for that video. My Stache, it had a 67.8 degree head tube angle and a 322 millimeter bottom bracket height. So it's just 0.4 degrees steeper on its head tube angle than the Full Stache. So I think that's a great design from Trek. Their Stache is a remarkable trail bike, and their Full Stache sounds like it's right in that great ballpark as well. So some of the build highlights for the Trek Full Stache 8 that we've seen so far are that it has a 130 millimeter RockShox Pike RL Solo Air for its fork. For the rims, it's got the Duroc 40 SL rims. It's got the GX Eagle 12-speed, 10 to 50 tooth cassette with a Truvative descent cranks with a 30 tooth chainring. It also has a dropper post. It's a 125 millimeter dropper for the smaller sizes and a 150 millimeter dropper for the larger sizes. It's got SRAM's Guide R hydraulic brakes. Weight of this bike comes in at 34.40 pounds. So not bad for a large wheeled full suspension bike that's sounding amazing on paper. We'll see how it rides. I'm looking so forward to riding this bike. I can't wait till that happens. It's probably going to be happening very soon, so stay tuned. Thanks for all of the subscriptions and for all the likes. If you like this video, please do give a like, and if you found it valuable, stay tuned for our future videos. Subscribe and click that bell next to the subscribe button so you don't miss the next video that we put out. And if you didn't like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs down. I do appreciate honest and open feedback. So if you do give me a thumbs down, please do leave a comment below letting me know how I can improve. It really helps my channel. Again, I'm Nick from Ride Alongside. Thanks so much for watching. I'll have more content for you real soon.